Good evening, everyone. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, members of the Arab Society and representatives and students from King's College London. And a very welcome to all of you. My name is Andy Letting. I'm a programme manager here at London Premier Centre, a leading force in empowering individuals, enterprises and communities with robust industry-leading training programmes. Our core objective is to foster innovation, promoting professional development and inspiring a commitment of lifelong learning. We are gathered here today in partnership with the prestigious King's College London and the devoted Arab Society to deliberate, share and gain valuable insights on enlightening the impactful topic, engineering the future of the Middle East, innovations and opportunities. There will be more events organised in collaboration with King's College and our next one will be August, and we're talking about financial management for universities and education institutes. Let me extend a heartfelt thank you to the King's College London, a global epicentre of education, research and scholarship, for graciously hosting us today in this esteemed institution. Your commitment to fostering dialogue, understanding and global partnership is truly commendable. So today's seminar, our topic resonates with shared aspirations of our respective organisations as we delve into discussions of engineering and the future. We will explore the innovation technologies, growing industries and lucrative opportunities that hold the potential of revolutionising the Middle East and landscape. The exploration provides a unique platform for the collaboration, exchange of ideas and forming a pathway to a future that embodies progress, sustainability and shared prosperity. To navigate us through this exciting exploration, we are joined by two distinguished speakers, on my left and on my right. Our first speaker, Sama Mohandes, is a chartered civil engineer and a PhD researcher at Imperial College London. He's currently working for Autodesk as a product manager, and he works on multiple high-profile schemes in the UK. And those schemes include Heathrow Airport, HS2, Thames Tideway Tunnel, Southend Airport, as well as Eastcote Town Central Development, where he's received multiple awards. Our second speaker, on my left, Jabba Hashim Al-Ani, a lecturer at York St John's University, a data scientist in terms of the department, also a visiting researcher in Lancaster University. Jabba has a PhD in computer science from the Department of Computer Science and Electronic Engineering, University of Essex, UK, and more than 10 years knowledge in machine learning, AI, NLP, data retrieval and information extraction, both in academic and research environments and industry. As we delve into these enlightening discussions, let us remember that our aim is not just to share knowledge, but also to spark a dialogue that we can potentially reshape our industry. So I encourage you all to ask questions and engage with the presenters among each of us. Thank you for your presence and participation. With that, let us commence with the enriching seminar that we have in front of us, with firstly Sama to talk about his engineering perspectives. Enjoy the discussion, debate and insights that today promises to bring you. Thank you. Sama.
Good evening everyone, lovely to see you all here today. So we're gathered today to talk about engineering the future and fostering innovation in the Middle East. If we go on now for a quick walk to Piccadilly Circus, you're going to see a big screen, right? That screen is not just a screen. It has multiple cameras that is scanning everyone, all the pedestrians around, trying to analyze the number of male and female, trying to analyze the age groups, so it would categorize them in age groups. It will help advertisers to target the audience. So if Piccadilly Circus is full of female, it will just start advertising about like female products, etc. And if it's full of male, it will even recognize if the pedestrians have facial hair or not. And it will use this data to target the ads, and it will start spitting ads related to the majority of the pedestrians. And not only this, it looks at the vehicles, and it analyzes the model of the vehicles, the year, the age, and it will help advertisers to target the drivers. So if, let's say, we have all new vehicles, statistically they're less likely to buy a new vehicle because they have like 2022 model, etc. And if you're driving to 2018, and there are lots of vehicles like model 2018 diesel, etc. This is when it will start giving you ads related to the vehicles you're driving. It also has Wi-Fi, and this Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi for the public. If you log in, it will try to analyze your login details with your permission, of course, and it will use this to target and serve you better, basically, and give you ads related to what your interests or what you want to see and what you want to hear. So why am I talking about Piccadilly Circus? And this is an opportunity for me to start this presentation and say that everything around us now is collecting data, analyzing data, and we're living in an age when even all companies became data companies. Tesla is a data company, Uber is a data company, and even food delivery, everything is trying to analyze data and use it better using machine learning and reinforced learning and genetic algorithms, and basically all these new technologies with digital twins and all that, to get to a point when we move from the era of having predictive stuff to perspective. And I'm going to talk about the difference soon. So the agenda for today, basically it was an introduction to get to my topic. And I will start with an introduction talking about smart cities and why we need to talk about data, machine learning, and genetic algorithms, and smart cities and sustainable cities. And then after this, I'm going to talk about the latest engineering innovations in the Middle East. Then I will talk about the opportunities and challenges faced when working in the Middle East in this sector. Then I'll mention about the sustainable practices nowadays when we are building and engineering the future in the Middle East. And then I will talk about the innovations in various sectors like construction, transport, energy, and healthcare. And finally, I will talk about 2 case studies. One of them is called The Line, which is a linear city in Saudi Arabia. And then I will talk about a new project that has just been advertised, and it's called the Muka'ab, or the Murabba. All right, so what's going on nowadays, and why are we interested in changing the way we are designing our cities and we're engineering the world? Are we not happy? Are we not getting from A to B? Are we not taking the train happily? And we go from Piccadilly Circus to Tottenham Court, and then we come back, etc. Everything is fine. Why do we need to make our cities smarter and more sustainable? So I'm not trying to be optimistic here. I'm not playing Greta, and I'm not trying to start a campaign on climate change and all that. But I'm going to state some facts as an introduction. First of all, half of the world already lives in big cities, and 2.5 billion will be added to the urban population by 2025. And by 2050, the population is expected to reach 9 billion. And 75% of this 9 billion will want to live in big cities. So that basically will add a lot of pressure on our infrastructure, on our energy, on our water supply, on our even wastewater. We will have a lot of demand on homes and transport. And imagine with this population increase and with the advanced in medical care, we get the death rate is going down and the population increase is going up, and we're not coping with the demand, the increased demand. There is an expectation in the water sector only by 2050 we're going to be $35 trillion short. in terms of our investment in infrastructure. So this will add a lot of pressure, and it will we have a lot of demand. So we need a new way of engineering our future and a new way of designing our cities. So we're sustainable. We are trying to be smart about how to become perspective instead of predictive. And I'm going to explain these terms soon. So when we talk about smart cities, what do we mean? First of all, we mean that we want smart transportation systems that will enable people to move around more quickly. We want smart buildings that don't waste energy. And we want smart health services that simplify and optimize smart diagnosis and medications for patients. We want smart government that will smart governance that will make it easier to optimize and find information, for people to find information and influence decision-making processes for their citizens. And basically, one of the things politicians would need to pick up is that the relationship between the parameters for any decision-making is not linear. It's not like you have an increased demand for housing, you go and build more houses. You might result in a, for example, crowded highway, and that will result in a delay for the ambulance to get to the hospital, and you might build 700 houses and result in an old man dying because they couldn't get to the hospital in time. So it's not linear. There are a lot of interdependencies between these parameters when we make decisions. So smart cities as well, we need to be smart about a water and wastewater system, how we basically use the water and trying to moderate the demand. And we need to be more active in using the Internet of Things. And basically it's using data to optimize the flow of energy, the flow of people, and the flow of data. And when I say IoT, I refer to a network of physical objects that contain software and sensors similar to the Piccadilly Circus screen. And these sensors are collecting data and are helping these screens, for example, to make a decision, which is, in our case, in Piccadilly Circus, is advertisements. But hopefully smart cities in the future will have smart curtains that will make a decision to simulate a movement when people are traveling so their house doesn't get robbed. And so basically the people will be under the impression that there are people in the house, and these smart curtains will be opened and closed, for example. So even my toothbrush is connected to an app, and it would tell me if I put more pressure on my tooth. I mean, if you get one of these electric toothbrush, and then it will have an app. My scale has an app. Everything nowadays is collecting data and using this data to inform decisions. So we want to enable technologies. We want to have better energy, building and constructions, and water and wastewater systems as well. And nowadays in construction, we have new technologies such as 3D printing. In Amsterdam, they managed to print a bridge. There is a pedestrian bridge. If you go to Amsterdam, go visit it. It's called just write 3D printed bridge. You can have some sort of digital twin technology. And when I say digital twin or IoT, I'm talking about objects that are connected to the internet. They're collecting data from the environment around them, and they're using this data to make decisions. In Heathrow Airport, for example, go to Terminal 5. If it rains on the roof, this water will be stored and in a tank, and this tank will send water to toilet. So when you flush a toilet in Heathrow Terminal 5, you're using rain that landed on that roof. But what if there is a lot of rain and we needed that water to store that rain? Heathrow would have sensors, so this would empty the tanks, and then if there is a rain coming, the tanks will be emptied and ready for the rain to arrive. All of this is helping us move towards smart cities. And opportunities in the Middle East. Within the Middle East, we have a green field. It's a blue ocean. Basically, we have a growing population, healthy economy, and we have a lot of support and a lot of funding for initiatives related to sustainable and smart cities. There is a lot of support for digital transformation, and a lot of support for digital twin implementations. The challenges, maybe there are challenges associated with climatic conditions. The weather sometimes it might go against some implementation of certain types of solutions, especially when we talk about green and sustainable measures in smart cities. We have rapid urbanization. We're building cities really, really quickly, and we've seen this in many countries in the Gulf region. And we have regulation complexity a little bit when it comes to building and trying to come up with new initiatives and new ways of doing things. So in construction, we have introduced, the UK and the US have introduced concepts to do with building information modeling. It's what they call it BIM, green building practices, 3D printing, and even sustainable drainage systems. All of these are now being adopted in the Middle East, and they became leaders in these. And especially when we talk about projects like NEOM, which I will mention soon, we can see that the Middle East would be leading the world and showing the world things that haven't been done before. They don't have an example of another NEOM that they can just say, okay, let me see how you've done it. Okay, I'll do the same. They don't have that example. So they're creating an example that can be followed. Someone in Texas maybe will say, okay, let me do the line again. Let me check how Saudi Arabia did it. So that will position the Middle East in a very good state down the line once these projects are concluded. In terms of transport, we've seen Hyperloop systems, we've seen autonomous vehicles, and we've seen some sort of smart transport infrastructure that will change, for example, the number of train trips based on the demand, and it will better predict the demand. And also, I'm going to say it, where someone in NEOM said, basically we're moving from predictive data to perspective data that would tell you what to do. And they said that basically data in real time is too late. And I loved it. Exactly. And in healthcare, we're using AI, machine learning, and reinforced learning for diagnostic. You can now put 10,000 or 1 million cancer cells and to a code, and the code would recognize that, this is what a cancer cell would look like. Put like a normal cell, 1 million photos, and then put a new one, and then the code will say, okay, this cell has cancer. And if it's wrong, you hit it, you slap it on the wrist, the code will learn, and then it will improve the way it makes further decisions. And this is what we call reinforced learning. So I will end with just talking about two case studies very quickly. One of them called The Line, which is a part of the ambitious NEOM project. It's 500 billion futuristic mega city. It's being developed in Saudi Arabia, and it's 170 kilometers long, and hence the name, The Line. And we are basically talking about in this project, we're talking about a city that will rely 100% on renewable energy. It will have zero carbon footprint. I don't know if you hear a lot of the governments are trying to be ambitious about carbon footprint and reduction of carbon footprint. That city will have zero carbon footprint, and it will have services and amenities connected with a 5-minute walk. And this design basically will preserve 95% of the nature around NEOM, and this city will be governed by AI. So it's all artificial intelligence, and Dr. Jaber will talk more about this from a data perspective. And this line is projected to accommodate 1 million residents from around the world, and the infrastructure will be powered by a digital framework in that place. We also have a new mall. It's not a mall. It's 20 times the size of Empire State Building, in the one in New York, and that one has 19 square kilometer footprint area and 25 million square meter floor area overall. Basically, as I mentioned, it's 20 times the Empire State Building, and it will feature green areas, walkable cycle path, and it's energy efficient, and it will all be governed by AI. So from what we've seen so far, the Middle East is trying to lead the way in the implementation of AI, machine learning, and smart cities, and sustainable measures, sustainable techniques, relying on the healthy economy that is happening in the Middle East these days, and relying on the healthy population, and the fact that they're still basically, their cities are new. They're not old cities. They don't have 200-year-old infrastructure. So that is a very good climate to try innovation, fail fast, learn again, try again, and so on. I'll hand over to Dr. Jaber. So over to you.
Thank you so much. Can I steal that from you? Sorry, I didn't get my laptop. That's right. Thank you. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our little talk. We'll hope that you will enjoy it as much as I do. Enjoyed Dr. Samer's talk. As our presenters produced, we have covered the engineering part, which is for the future and what will be kind of the vision for the upcoming events, or even the role of the AI and what might be expected to be seen in the near future, at least with the next upcoming 10 years. But let's talk more about the statistics and how this kind of big data is generated. Let's talk more about what is the kind of what's big data. The big data is any kind of enormous or extremely large or complex data that had been generated, either structured or unstructured data, which will have characterized by 3 V's, which are the volume, velocity, and variety. As you all know that the main companies, and even when you are using your phones, lots of data is generated through the social media, through the kind of the microphones. Some of the companies, I'm not mentioning any names, they are picking up some words so they can use some kind of adverts. You can see when you talk about a car, when you talk about anything, it will just direct you through the kind of the pop-up ads, and you can see it just loud and clear. So the idea is without just by us just talking, it will be generated some kind of data all around us. But this is not the stopping point. There is more than that. Even when we think about something, so you can see that there are more data generated through our brains. You'll say, okay, are there any radars around? No, but the researches are about more about the brain waves, let's say. The new research is about the new brain waves, which the brains are generating. It could be picked up by the AI and could be analyzed through the digital signal processing, and it might produce some kind of data. For example, now we reach to the point that we can just, when you see a red, color, the machine could tell you that you saw a red color or a blue one. These kind of stuff might be evolved day by day. And if you can see, there are lots of tests to bypass even the nerves from the kind of the medical. Let's talk more maybe on the medical side. There are more about in this side, which is picking up the brain waves, and it will just bypass it to the organ, so you can just maybe move your hands. So imagining that, you can just see how much data that we are creating throughout every single day. Each one of us could be considered as a kind of a data source nowadays. This, projecting this into the the role of the AI on doing that, because this kind of big data will not produce any kind of information or knowledge out of nowhere. There should be something to govern that, or to extract this kind of knowledge from this massive data. The AI is the answer. But the AI is still like, even if we're saying that it is so advanced to capture all of this knowledge, but still did not reach to the edge or to the level that it could make this kind of decisions or big decisions instead of the human interfere. But the new vision by 2030, we could reach to the point that my colleague mentioned, which might be the decision making, which will reach to the point that it could make some kind of decisions that human can make. Using that, what have been done in the last, like by PwC, produce some kind of analysis, and the growth for the GDP, for the world GDP is moving very kind of fast, starting from the 2007, from $2 trillion the investment in AI, reaching to 16 trillion, which is about quadruple the amount of money that could be the AI is investing in the next upcoming years. And it had been invested in several sectors. The idea is to make use of that in the Middle East now. They started around 2017. And the amount of data, or let's say the main countries that started doing that by producing AI or data science research centers, AI centers, the Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and all the rest of the other countries are following, starting from 2017, reaching to the mid of 2019 and 20, they started to engage in this market, which make it a very huge market to contribute in. As my colleague said, there is a lot of investments in the future vision, which is in 2030 and 2031 for Dubai and 2030 for the for Qatar, let's say. Moving forward to which kind of let's say the sectors that the countries, the Middle East countries are contributing or putting this enormous investments in, starting from the construction and manufacturing, which might reach to $100 billion investments by the 2030. Moving on the other side, the the energy and utility mining as well is a very huge market, which is around 80 billion dollars in terms of investment by 2030. Not excluding the retail and consumer and the transport as well as the financial investments. The most kind of sectors which are the data, big data is generated now, especially in the Middle East, is the healthcare, finance and banking, smart cities, infrastructure, as you said, and oil and gas. This kind of data make it a very huge market to the for the in the Middle East, and there are very huge investment that could be done there. The investment will be not just on the sectors themselves, but the data generated from it. And the idea, the whole idea is to invest more in the people, on the minds, and the ideas and the researches, in all of these sectors, to make it more robust and automated. One of the one of the case studies, which is which I wanted to present, is the United, the Saudi Arabia 2030 vision, which started this kind of vision in different sectors. One of them is the healthcare, for example. There are lots of researches now in nanotechnology and how you can just produce small robots in order to target the cancer cells, let's say, for example, which is a very, very kind of rising, one of the kind of rising markets as well. And as well as using the Hyperloop, which is something very, very interesting, which will save time, which is becoming more precious, as we all know. But like the AI is not always the answer until we reach to the point that we can make we will reach to the point that we are 100% confident that it will make this great change. This is why we are in the need of the big data in order to make our tests, our research, to get to the kind of decision that we are 100% confident that we can put the AI in charge. The same thing happened with the UAE. They invested, they have the 2031 vision, which is by producing the green Dubai by 2031, which is no any kind of emission, zero emission city, which will be produced by using fully green energy. This is more producing, this is more into generating more data. It will generate more data. It will utilize all of the AI capabilities by producing more innovation, more algorithms that could be much smarter than it should be now. And the last not least as well, for the 2030 for Qatar, in order they just invested a huge amount of money in, and after you have seen the kind of the success in the in the World Cup, they are now using more of the the AI technologies in order to make in different sectors, let's say, and they are making it more automative towards a very green city with an AI interferes in all of the life sectors. Finally, let's give it a kind of to recap on the whole thing. The AI is the future of investments in all sectors, but we need to be more careful of how we are using it. Most of you now are using ChatGPT, for example, to do some kind of work, but be careful because there are counter measures in order to catch it. But anyway, in general, it is a very nice tool and you can use it, but if you know how to use it carefully. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. David.
Thank you very much. Here you go. Sorry. And this is yours as well. Here you go.
Thank you, Dr. Jabber, and thank you, Sam. Super interesting, and some really big numbers there, actually. They're quite scary, aren't they? And 2030 doesn't seem that far away, does it, when we talk in terms of time? Okay, so we're going to go through in terms of our discussion now for the rest of the session. I have some questions prepared. If you do have burning questions here in the audience, please do feel just to raise your hand, but do please speak clearly for our audience online so they can hear your questions, and I'm sure Dr. Jabber and Samuel will try and answer them the best they can. So I'm going to kick off, if I may. And so why do we think this is an important topic to be discussed? Sam, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah. So because we're at a point, if we extrapolate from where we are, we're going to get to a very, very difficult future if we do nothing. If we continue building roads, roofs, and highways and runways, etc., more airports, just to cope with the demand, we will be in a very, very, very difficult position and challenging position because we won't be able to cope. And there are many studies on the implications of population rise, and all of this is coupled not only with this, with a climate change, with sea level rise, with temperature change, and in the future we will see waves of refugees, not war refugees, climate change refugees. You will see people are running away from countries that have water scarcity, and that will create a lot of dynamic and shift in powers and all this. So this is why we need to stop and reflect on how we've been doing things, and then move towards more smart cities, more sustainable cities. In the Middle East, they've been doing desalination, for example, to solve water problems. They're the best. California, Saudi Arabia, Sydney. I think these three countries are the best countries when it comes to desalination. In Saudi Arabia now they are doing and Sydney started this first, but they're doing now desalination units without using energy, like zero. You're using zero energy. It's powered by solar panels and all this. And then even when you're sending the salty water outside of the desalination, they're trying to reuse it in a way. They call it brine, the brine water. Instead of dumping it to the sea, killing the fish, they're using it again. And yeah, we need to find these innovative and these creative measures so we can have a better future. And yeah, that's the answer.
Thank you. And Dr. Jam, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, actually, to be honest, for the let's talk more about like in the what's really might be like happening in terms of like the countries themselves reaching to the point that if we are talking more about like the AI, there are lots of variations actually in terms of the research on investing into AI in the near future. And the problem now, if like some of the countries are not starting now, it will be too late. So it means that they need to recap, and maybe there won't be some kind of like a kind of language to be spoken between countries in terms of like the finance and collaboration. This is why like most of the countries like realized that the most kind of like sector or like the AI is the most maybe let's say more like the big investments could be gone with the AI in order to recap or start to follow up with the other countries. This is why you can see this kind of revolutionary visions in the Middle East now. So it could just stay like head to head with the other countries, and maybe I think it is a very, very promising market nowadays to be investing.
Thank you, Dr. Jabba. Thank you, Sama. Questions for you, Dr. Jabba. You were talking about the Middle East, and as you say, there were some really kind of interesting innovations, and you were touching on big data. What do you see as the value, or what is the value of this big data produced in the Middle East?
The idea is like the idea for the big data is like when you are using the AI, it needs something to feed on. Like it is similar to the like when we are feeding, like when we are eating food to get some energy. The AI, the same thing. AI needs data to learn from. This is the kind of main value. This is the major or the mega value for the big data that it is generated from different sectors in these countries, and this is why the huge investment in the AI come from. Before there were no kind of records. There are no kind of any kind of tools or any kind of facilities that could record this enormous data. Maybe in Europe, they started very, very early on this point. But in order for the Middle East to recap, they started from technologies which are the cutting edge. And then they started with a very huge, enormous data. So this is why they adopted the cutting edge AI technologies and techniques, and then started to build on top of it. So this is why like the kind of like importance of the big data and how they are generated and how kind of enormous this data is and how it is valuable.
Thank you, Dr. Jama. I have a host of questions to get through. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to raise their hand and ask a question at this point? Yes, sir. Do
So I have a question.
you have a microphone behind you. Brilliant.
One second. Yes.
So I have a question. I guess it's a bit more of a generic question about AI and machine learning and all these new technologies. Do you think at some point it's going to become a little bit, I mean, it's going to become so smart that there will be a point of diminishing returns in which it will be too smart and we'll have to maybe stop it or stop just stop it by going any further?
I would say that I will answer this question from like, what are the fears of using too smart like technology? Which one of the reports, like they started to talk more maybe with the ChatGPT or any of the AI tools, reaching to the point that they started to a kind of like a series of questions reaching to the deepest secret that this kind of like tools that they are having. So some of them are like saying that they might reach to the point that they see that as the Terminator, which is like the humans are like killing the planet so we can get rid of them, which is the kind of myth that's hiding behind. But to some point it is controllable. That's why you can see that there are lots of capabilities to go an extra mile with the current stage, but they are not moving that much fast. You can see this kind of like movements and like how the technology is evolving so fast, but it is not fast enough. Believe me, there are more capabilities to make it move extra mile, but they are beholding that because of the kind of, let's say, accurate and the accuracy, the decision making. They are not 100% like still confident in order to make the machine take over some of the like jobs or like the kind of the human actions. For example, the auto driving. Yeah. They didn't reach to the point that will make the car drive like 100% with a very 100% confidence on the road. So this is why there is still a doubt. Like giving this, like having in hand that the automotive cars are already on the road, and you can see it with Tesla, but they are not 100% confidence until this moment.
They make a lot of mistakes.
Exactly. So this is why the confidence is the main problem. It's not, there is no 100% like confidence in the machine in order to make it take over. I hope I answered your question.
That was very good.
Really. Yeah.
Samuel, would you like to add to that question?
Yeah.
So basically this discussion was had long time ago when a lot of new technologies were introduced. So you know, similar to these talks we hear these days about, oh my God, I'm so worried about my kids on their phone all day, they're not interacting. The same thing was said about the magazines. When people were reading the magazines in the train, they said, oh my God, we're heading into a different future. And similarly, when, for example, all software packages were introduced, the computer, Google, when Google was introduced, we had similar fears to the fears that we're having now about ChatGPT. Because we said, oh my God, all students will be Googling everything and they're gonna get the answer really quickly. What's the problem? It's okay. But now let them ChatGPT everything and let them get their answer from ChatGPT, and they would need to develop their skills in a different space to compete with their peers. I don't see a problem in progressing, in getting a bridge 3D printed, in getting an answer from ChatGPT, so be it. But then, yes, good luck competing with your peers if you're not catching up with what you need to catch up with in terms of skills, in terms of knowledge and innovation. You won't be assessed in the future about how much you know about like whatever ChatGPT can answer you these days. Writing an introduction in your thesis. I saw you smiling when they talked about ChatGPT, so I'm gonna tell your supervisor. I'm joking.
Yeah,
but
be careful because there is a plagiarism.
Yeah, there is text.
There's a lot of false positives, you know, with the plagiarism tool. With the
there is AI plagiarism too.
Yeah, and there is text classifiers.
In case my supervisor watching this, I did not use ChatGPT.
For the record, I was joking. Yeah. So there is a text classifier. Basically, if you put more than 1,000 words, I have it on my machine here, and it will tell you that this is an AI text.
Generated.
And if you put let's say if you write a sentence that say this is a human text, I can recognize it. So yeah, people can recognize this, and I've seen professors in universities around the world using different techniques to find out. But we shouldn't be worried because that's the nature progression. of society. And otherwise we would not be doing the self-service checkout in the supermarket, because we're worried about the jobs of the teller and the people in Sainsbury's, etc. But no, these people should catch up and get new skills. And if we get to a point when a lot of jobs are not needed anymore, the government will make, I'm sure, the government will make some sort of a base income to everyone. Because if the AI is taken over, and so be it. It's a new era, a new space. Let's play that game. Let's see how it's going to look like.
Just for the record, it is now like integrated with Turnitin.
My Turnitin report is
Official
very
it
good.
is.
So, very good. I mean, yeah, I think your answers were both very good. And Dr. Samir, you opened towards the end about my following question, which was, I think a lot of people say that AI and ML will take away a lot of jobs, but I sometimes think of a different perspective. I think it won't, I think it will remove some jobs from an area, but then add the need for more jobs to other areas.
Yes.
And at the same time, I think that there will be jobs that no matter how powerful AI gets, it cannot do them. So for example, in the context of civil engineering, it won't be able to put the brick on top of the other brick. It won't be able to know how to put the track in this specific way. I feel like this isn't something that we should be worried about, because what it will take away, it will add back in a different way. So for example, instead of learning about, I don't know, something that there's no need for anymore, people will be focusing more on, okay, so how do I learn more about, I don't know, neural networks or reinforcement learning or unsupervised learning or whatever. So I just wanted to hear your perspectives on whether it would add or remove jobs.
And you hit the nail on the head when you said that. Basically that you're not worried about losing the job because other jobs will be created. Just compare this age with the age when they're hitting stones to light some fire. Are we busier than before? Everyone nowadays is extremely busy. I mean, I'm busier these days than my grandfather when he was 34, and my grandfather was busier than his We're getting busier and busier, so I'm not worried at all about losing jobs and the AI taking over. Cool.
Thank you. Well, like any digital age, any innovation, it kind of generates new buzzwords, and we all think, oh, more buzzwords. I'd like it actually if we could maybe just take some of the buzzwords we've talked about today and elaborate a little bit more. So I'm going to give you a couple each. I think that will be easier. So, so do you want to maybe expand on BIM, IoT, and SUDs?
Sure.
Thanks.
So, in the past, when we used to create engineering drawings, we used to work in silos. So someone would be designing this and would be drawing this on a paper. Another one would be designing this and drawing this on a paper. And then they would try to build it together, and suddenly, oh my God, I'm clashing. That is called BIM level 0. They weren't doing any BIM. BIM stands for Building Information Modeling. And we started with BIM level 1, which means that, okay, each of these people will be drawing shapes in 3D, and then we will be laying these on the top of each other and say, okay, this might clash, so I'm not happy with that, so maybe I'll talk to this person to adjust this, or maybe I'll talk to this person to move it away. And we had less problems. But still, we had problems, but that these are being designed in two different places. So spatial coordination was rubbish. We would turn up on site and we would get calls from contractors saying, come here, you're clashing with the gas main, there is an electric cable going through your column, etc. And then the UK government in 2016, they said, we want BIM level 2. BIM level 2 means that I have one model, it's called the federated model that has all the components together. And if I'm clashing, I will see in that model that I'm clashing. BIM level 3, which is, we're not there yet in the UK. We're going to get there at some point. We're writing the guidance. The UK government is writing the guidance. It's going to be everything in the cloud, and we will be able just to send our data to the cloud, and it will do the clash detection, and it will ensure that everything is fine. BIM level 4, we will add a program. So you will see that, okay, you look at the drawing, you're clashing, this is clashing with this, But if you look at the program, we're destroying this, we're taking it away, and then we're putting this instead. So we're not clashing. Actually, when we put the time as if, they call it in the US 4D modeling, 4-dimensional modeling. 5D modeling in the US or BIM level 5 in the UK is when you add cost. So you see, as you're doing this, you see how much you're paying, and the cost will be going up, etc. And then BIM, there will be level 6 and level 7. We don't know what this would look like, but we're heading towards a more collaborative way of building and especially designing and building and constructing and implementing. The other one is IoT. When you want to go to Spain, you take your phone and you check the weather, and you see, oh, it's there's in 10 days it might be raining. That's called prediction. You're predicting, and when you put a sensor in Spain, and you not sensor, let's say your cousin, and you ask your cousin, can you go to the balcony? Tell me today what is the weather like, and your cousin will go up to the balcony and say it's raining, and then you put a jacket. You made a decision based on real-time data. Your cousin went to the balcony to tell you what the weather is. So you're not predicting, and this is called perspective modeling. And we're doing this in all aspects of life, in water, in energy, in building. We're trying to move to a place when the code is telling us what to do. So the code would tell me, there's a rain coming, this rain is gonna flood this area. Take that wall, put a wall here, put a sandbag, like a group of sandbags here, and it will divert the flood and flood your neighbor instead. I'm joking. But yeah, basically it will tell you what to do, and it's called perspective modeling. Now, sustainable drainage system, SUDS, this is what I did my PhD on. And this is a way of mimicking the nature. So when you go to Lake District, do you see drainage systems and gullies and drains, etc.? You don't see anything because the nature takes care of itself environmentally, and this is called the hydrological cycle. SUDS is a way of incorporating measures in the urban environment, so we mimic the behavior of the nature, basically. So instead of rain landing on a highway, and then you get this water needs to disappear really quickly because we're treating the water as a waste product. We're sending it quickly to the river, and we're flooding everywhere. We're making a mess. Basically, we want to have some features to hold on to the water, introduce some planting at a low level, so the water will be attracted to the planting. It will be delayed. It's similar if you have a lot of schools sending students to the street at the same time. And this is you're gonna flood the streets with students. What is better to do, or the best thing to do, is to hold on to the students, release them slowly, so get each class to have a certain time. This class would finish at 3 p.m., this class 3:05, this class 3:10, and then you don't flood the streets with students. This is exactly SUDS, what we try to implement with SUDS. Okay.
Thank you very much. For you, Dr. Jabber, we've got machine learning and reinforced learning.
Yeah, machine learning and reinforced learning. Machine learning, I think you know most maybe about the two kind of aspects, but let's talk about it from more about technical perspective. Machine learning, you do have any kind of just like in simply how to teach the machine how to make some kind of decisions or predictions based on the data that you are giving to the machine. For example, if you maybe have, like, let's take a very, very simple example on the healthcare sector, for example. Like there is a kind of like a very well-known problem, which is like the prediction of a heart attack, of a possible heart attack for any kind of patient, for example. So you can feed in 70% of the data to the machine and like use some machine learning algorithm, and it will have the kind of the rest of the data, which is the 30%, it will predict for you which kind of person that might have the likelihood, the more likelihood for predicting that might have this kind of like a possibility of having a heart attack, for example. Or another one which is predicting the house price for a specific area, for example, by using all of the kind of data gathered based on the postcodes, based on the posh area, previous history, well known, like the history of the kind of prices for the houses as well, which is a kind of like using regression as a kind of regression problems. And there are some kind of contests on Kaggle if you want to try and use, maybe if you are interested in that field. But the reinforcement learning is a kind of like learn by like lessons. I think my colleague Sam, I think talked more about the reinforcement learning and how to like the machine will just learn by some kind of like the reward and the kind of like the reward and punishment. So the kind of it will give it some kind of like maybe if the machine learned or give a right answer, it will get a reward. If not, it will get, you said, a slap on the wrist or something. Yeah. So this is the kind of like both of the techniques, and I think the reinforcement learning now is more kind of let's say one of the hot topics because it is more with like the machine interacting with the human, so it is more likely to go or maybe to be used, and especially using the neural networks models now is more kind of one of the hot topics as well. So yeah, these are the two main topics, and I think.
Thank you, Dr. Jamal. Let's go back to the audience, and is there any other questions, any burning questions that have come up? Yes, sir. There's a hand raised at the back there. Have we got a mic?
Yes.
Please.
Yeah, thank you for your talk today. I actually wanted to ask you a question based on two projects that you named that are happening in Saudi Arabia, the Line and the Cube. We've heard a lot about them in the media, and you know, currently right now, a lot of sectors that are trying to go into, you know, like the grid wants to become a smart grid, transport wants to become smart, like you said. They're facing a lot of challenges in doing that, and I think the Line and the Cube, they have a lot of ambitious goals. How feasible do you think those goals are, especially in the time frames that they've suggested that they'll complete them in?
Yeah, great question. And a lot of people have discussed the feasibility and the buildability of such a big, ambitious project. Some people are calling it fantasy, actually. I believe that this is the right step to take, and you put a big, ambitious target. And if you get there 100%, happy days. The world will be copying and will learn a lot. If you get 70% there, also happy days, because you're the first one to try this, and maybe you're going to realize and pivot and say, maybe we need to change this and learn from this. What Saudi Arabia is doing is positioning Saudi Arabia in a very good place to increase the GDP from consultancy, future consultancy. Like the UK, they abandoned the manufacturing long time ago. They stopped Jaguar and all this nonsense. And the UK GDP is coming from financial services and consultancy, most of it. Saudi Arabia will be in a point that in the future we say, okay, let's implement the Line in Texas, so let's pay the Saudis a lot of money, consultancy fees, so we can get their expertise. And that would put Saudi Arabia in a very good position. And that will only happen if we have a big heart, we're trying to be courageous, and we're trying to take these steps toward the future. Same thing was said about Burj Khalifa. It was it was over budget, and it was behind schedule. It had all sort of problems. It stopped halfway, and then someone put more money into it, and it was supposed to be Burj someone else, and then they made it Burj Khalifa, because Khalifa is the one who put a lot of money into this. So they learned a lot. They pivoted. They changed the program. They changed the budget that they assigned for this. Similarly, this is happening in the UK. Crossrail, we overspent. HS2, we massively overspent, and we changed the project, and we cancelled phase 2, and we did this, and we keep pivoting. We're learning, and we pivot, and we keep going, and then we learn something else, and we pivot back. And this is the nature cycle of achieving big projects. If we're gonna do something that people have done before and just copy it, and yes, we will have. It's gonna be feasible, buildable, constructible, and you're gonna deliver it on budget, on time, etc. Happy days. You won't have a problem, because you're just copying and pasting. But if you're trying to be ambitious, you will face problem, and then you'll deal with them once you hit them. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you very much. I think there was a gentleman in the far corner, the fourth row up in the black t-shirt, who had a question. Maybe Dr. Jabber, you'll be on hand to answer this one.
Hi, thank you. So my question for you today is, what do you think are the key potential areas for growth, specifically in manufacturing and also the industries that you two are involved in, specifically as a consequence due to AI and machine learning? How can AI and machine learning open up potential big paradigm shifts in those industries and manufacturing?
You mean which industries that you think the AI and machine learning could be investing in, or the potential for them to be investing in, you mean?
Yeah, sure. So it's more so where how AI can create massive leaps in particular industries such as manufacturing.
Oh, I see. Yeah, the thing is, maybe I just mentioned that in the presentation, which is I'm really going to recap on that and elaborate. The idea is in terms of in which sector, let's say, in terms of even in the manufacturing or any kind of sector, other sectors, the AI take the role in order to more expediting any kind of thing that you maybe think of in any sector. Let's say one of the things that you said, which is manufacturing. Let's say the cars, for example, car industry and manufacturing. So the car industry, you can see now lots of cars which are smart cars. The AI is the kind of the smart cars industry is really growing up. Even the kind of the electric cars, the market of the electric cars, let's say. The idea of using the AI itself is started at the beginning as a kind of a very simple tasks, but now machines are talking to each other and it is producing lots of information through the production line. So it could pass it the machine on the, let's say, on the beginning of the production line, it will produce more information to the second line, so it will assess the situation and pass it through all the way. So it could be, you could have some kind of a very automated production line from end to end. The idea is started by having some kind of marginal errors, a huge marginal error. Then afterwards, it just reduces the whole kind of the error by time. So in terms of involving the AI in the manufacturing, it is rising sky high, skyrocket. And it is the other thing is you can see it through the growing world GDP, the gross domestic product for the whole world. It has just gone from 2 trillion to around 16 trillion. By 2030, this is what would be expected. I hope I answered your questions.
I think Sam just wants to add one comment to your question.
So I'll give you examples on manufacturing. Tesla, they're using AI like there's no tomorrow with the manufacturing of Tesla, to the point that the customer called them, say, hey, the brake curve of the car is not working properly, and the AI in this the data, being a data company, allowed them to access their customer's car really quickly, and they said, try now. And then it was working. Heineken, is it Heineken? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it, the beer company, the Irish Heineken? Yeah. So Heineken, they're using AI in their manufacturing to the point that it learns if something is broken, it will send the part that is broken to a computer. The computer will 3D print it. They will use that part and then put it again, and then they don't have to call an engineer to come here to Heineken and sort things out. They're doing magic when it comes to AI and data. And yeah, there are lots and lots of examples, and I hope these two examples answered your question.
Thank you very much. That brings us to a close in terms of our discussion. I think you're going to be sticking around so you'll be able to speak to the audience more and answer those burning questions. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you, Dr. Jabba, super insightful, and thank you, Sam, thank you for your insights. It's been fascinating, and thank you to the audience again who have participated, and I hope you've learnt something. You go away today with your heads kind of bursting with knowledge and insight that you didn't know when you first came into the room, and yes, we're staying here afterwards so for some networking, so please feel free to engage, and finally, thank you very much.
Thank you.